Hello, good morning. My name is Denisia Pomaiji and welcome to AM News. Now, the ambulance trial is taking a dramatic turn. The Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Thomas Opompepra, took to the stand yesterday and was cross-examined by the lawyers of the various parties on the disparities in some of the claims in the Ghana Armed Forces communication concerning Richard Jakpe's release from the force. Now, the top military officer revealed he does not know the person in the armed forces who released confidential information about the third accused Richard Jakpe to the Ministry for Defense, which influenced the ministry's report to the Attorney General. Godfred Yeboadame. Court correspondent Latif Idris was there and has more.
This is what the Chief of Defense Staff told the court, that misconduct, the word that was used or suggested to Richard Jakpe during cross-examination by prosecution, that he was released or sacked from the military because of misconduct. Today, the Chief of Defense Staff has told open court that the word misconduct does not appear in the military release letter to Richard Jakpe.
Now, let's look at the table attached to Exhibit BF3. Where a military officer does not pay his debts, which of the reasons for release is applicable to him?
My lady, is misconduct and is having failed to settle his private debts.
Please tell the court whether misconduct appears in Exhibit BF3, which is the Army's release letter to third accused.
My lady, no.
Now that you do not know, or you cannot tell the court, who released the confidential records of the third accused person to the minister, were you able to find out from your, were you able to institute an inquiry into it?
My lady, I did not receive any correspondence, but some documents have been released to the court, so I couldn't do that.
Very well.
The Chief of Defense Staff also, when asked by Abdul Basit Bamba, who is lawyer for Dr. Kesilato Forcing, whether or not he's ever cited any court order for the release of Jakpe's sack letter to the AG, his answer was an emphatic no.
Exhibit BF1 is addressed to the Honorable Minister for Justice and Attorney General.
Yes,
have you seen any court order served on you or made available to you that indicates that Exhibit BF1 should be released to the Office of the Honorable Attorney General?
No, my lady.
When you compare Exhibit BF1 to Exhibit BF3, I suggest to you that the reasons stated by the Honorable Minister of Defense in Exhibit BF1 as the grounds for the release of A3 are not totally accurate.
Yes, my lady.
But the CDS went ahead to state that the defense minister can go ahead and release confidential information about an officer to, say, the court.
Does the Minister for Defense consult you, the Chief of Defense Staff, in releasing a document to another public officer, including the Attorney General?
My lady, he exercises the right to copy me or not.
And that is what normally prevails. The Minister for Defense does not necessarily consult you in releasing any document at all.
My lady, I won't say it's normal, but he can do that.
He can.
And now, away from the ambulance trial in court, the Electoral Commission is set to conduct an online mop-up for the limited voter registration exercise, aiming to register at least 70,000 individuals. Now, this comes after significant network challenges in May that made it hard to register, leaving many people to endure long queues while others were frustrated and unable to register. The EC says they have the assurance of their internet service providers to deliver stable and reliable connectivity for this critical exercise. There's more in the following report. We'll bring you that story on the EC's mop-up exercise online later. But if you use the Accra-Tema motorway often, I'm sorry, your respite after the gaping potholes patches are over. The potholes are back, larger and unsafe than before. Michael Ashali and the team counted over 100 potholes on the express highway. Now, drivers are growing increasingly anxious and are urgently appealing to the government to address the worsening condition of the road. There's more in this report.
Poor bitumen patchwork. Plain and simple. We counted at least 100 potholes on the Accra-Tema stretch of the motorway. Iron rods and the concrete slabs are now visible barely 6 months after the motorway benefited from the $150 million released for patching potholes across the country. The rains came and simply washed away the bitumen, and the potholes have returned, now larger and more treacherous than before.
We have traveled less than half of the Tema-bound section of the Accra-Tema motorway. Already we have counted more than 22 potholes, one of which just behind me, staring us in the face.
I can imagine a driver telling himself, Eric, slow down, your ties, oh, as he approaches this dangerous spot. Drivers have no option but to slump into the iron rods-ridden potholes, ready to puncture the tires of unsuspecting motorists. Eric Upon is a victim.
Last week, I blasted out for there. I was speeding light one, so I didn't see early. So I passed up where the iron rods took the tire. At the back tire, so we blast the tire, so I come out the passengers. When it is morning and the evening, we find difficult for the motor to top. Actually, can't go early, slowly, especially abattoir bridge. Okay, yeah. There's they can't do recently, but I still know there's a heavy potholes over there.
Drivers are permitted a speed limit of 80 kilometers per hour. But to safely navigate the potholes, drivers are forced to slow down, causing traffic congestion on the express highway.
This year the motorway in Kurabo 4. I dey call no say traffic na chi wo hono abeduru over here. So omoye kwani ye mai.
It's a difficult situation even for state institutions like the police service that has to respond to emergencies. They have to deal with this situation and drive as slowly as they can. To make matters worse, all the street lights that used to line up the entire stretch of the Tema motorway have all been removed. The exact reason we don't know. That means drivers will not have to drive in pitch darkness every night, aggravating and raising the level of danger on the Accra-Tema motorway.
Ride-hailing and taxi drivers like Stephen Ayano now avoid working at night because of the poor condition of the motorway.
It's not easy. There was a time I saw a pothole around and I was like, what is this? Hey! On the motorway, driving on the motorway and seeing this pothole, nah, it's not good.
He tells me he nearly lost his life on the motorway.
There was a pickup driving by. I think the driver was sleeping also. He saw a pothole on the road and he tried to do it. Luckily, only God. If God did not come inside, like that time, I could have lost my life that time. Sometimes someone stops me crash on my motorway, and I'll say nah, because the way right now the road is, I won't go.
Drivers, Passengers and pedestrians are urging government to repair the deplorable road.
So we are begging government to come throughout. Always government they pass through. I don't know say maybe they see it or not. So we are begging them to come and see.
We have to go on the contractors because the way maybe they come on the road and they do the road, they just do like part-time thing. They don't do it to last. It's just a part-time thing. When it rains, that's it.
After traveling the entire stretch of the motorway from Accra to Tema and back, we counted a staggering 112 potholes. A disaster waiting to happen. Drivers hope the government will fix it before it gets worse. For Joy News, Michael Ashale.
Now let's go back to that story about the EC's plan to conduct an online mop-up for the limited voter registration exercise. Now the commission is aiming to register about 70,000 individuals. There's more captured in this report.
In the last limited voter registration exercise, the Electoral Commission registered more than 100,000 eligible voters. The exercise spanned 21 days. However, not all eligible voters were able to make it onto the electoral roll. The EC says in August it will give all such persons the opportunity to register in the mop-up exercise.
Currently, there are 18,681,366 provisional registered voters, and we emphasize that these figures are provisional. As part of measures to ensure an all-inclusive voters register ahead of the 2024 general elections, the Electoral Commission is organizing a mop-up voter registration exercise to give opportunity to eligible persons who could not register and those who have turned 18 years since the limited voter registration exercise. This mop-up registration exercise will be conducted online. So if you are already a registered voter, our system will flag you out. The mop-up voter registration exercise will take place from Thursday, 1st August to Saturday, 3rd August 2024. The exercise will take place at all the 268 district offices of the Commission, 26 public universities, and 41 prison centers across the country.
The May limited voter registration exercise was originally planned to be done online only. However, due to connectivity challenges, the EC instructed their agents to register them manually. For the mop-up exercise, the EC says they have made all necessary arrangements with their service providers to ensure a smooth online experience.
Actually had series of meetings with MTN, and we have been given the assurance that the internet connectivity will be stable. So that's the main reason why we are not going offline. We will have a stable network, but in case we do have challenges with the network, the offline is the available option.
The Electoral Commission says they are in talks with the Ghana Police Service, which has also agreed to provide round-the-clock protection at all registration centers to ensure no violence is marked.
Political parties are allowed to send their agents to the registration centers to observe the exercise. The Commission expects the parties to educate their agents well to enable them conduct themselves professionally at all the registration centers. We've also informed the security agencies, and they will be there to make sure that they safeguard not only properties but the persons or maybe officials at the registration centers. So apart from the education that we do, we also have the presence of the police.
All things being equal, the Electoral Commission hopes to register at least 70,000 new eligible voters onto the electoral roll. For Joy News, Michael Ashale.
Another University of Health and Allied Sciences has conferred an honorary doctorate of science on President Akufo-Addo at the CD Auditorium at the university's main campus in Sokode in the whole municipality of the Volta region. Now, the honorary doctorate was conferred on him for his contribution to the development of science, technology, engineering and mathematics education in the country. This adds to the catalogue of honorary doctorates the president has received from prestigious tertiary institutions across the globe during his 8 years of administration. More captured in this report.
The University of Health and Allied Sciences, which took off in September 2012 with about 150 students, now has a student population of about 8,000, offering 22 undergraduate and 14 postgraduate programs. Addressing a special congregation in honor of President Akufo-Addo, the Vice Chancellor of UHAS, Professor Lydia Aziato, announced the addition of some new programs.
And we are going to start a 6-year Doctor of Laboratory Sciences program, an MPhil PhD in Medical Laboratory Sciences, an MPhil Midwifery program, Doctor of Psychology program with specializations in clinical psychology, counseling psychology, and neuropsychology. We are also going to introduce for this academic year, with the next admission, Bachelor of Health Service Administration, which is a 4-year degree program. In addition to that, the School of Pharmacy is going to also introduce MPhil PhD program.
Welcome back. Sincerest apologies for that. We'll bring you that story in our subsequent bulletins. But guess what? It's now time for business updates with Sweetie Abochi. Hello, Sweetie.
Hi, Poma. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
It's a beautiful wet month name, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Right. Now let's do some business stories, starting with Senior Finance Lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Benjamin Amwa, has asked commercial banks to strategize and find more innovative ways to reduce the high non-performing loans sitting in their books to prevent the looming credit risk to the sector's recovery process. His comment is coming at a time banking industry non-performing loans ratio surged to 24.1% in June 2024, up from 18.7% in June 2023. Speaking to Joy Business, Dr. Amwa stated that the Bank of Ghana and the banks have a greater role to play in reducing the high NPLs. There's more in this report.
The banks themselves will have to look through their loan portfolios. They have to do their loan type and loan industry analysis to identify which areas of the economies are posing challenge when it comes to servicing of the loans. They also have to look at the individuals who may be struggling to service the loan and identify what possibly will be the challenge in their inability to service the loan. The banks will also have to look at their whole credit regime, how they go through the credit assessment, and identify what best ways they can use to reduce this high level of non-performing loans. Because at the end of the day, the funds that the banks are using to create these loans are depositors' funds. So it is a responsibility of the banks to make sure that when these loans are extended, they are repaid so that depositors can have access to their funds. Again, Bank of Ghana also has a responsibility to make sure that the entire industry is good enough to support lending activities. We shouldn't forget that Ministry of Finance will also have a role to play, because if the entire financial services sector, the entire economy is not really working, definitely servicing of loans will also be difficult. So it is more about the relevant industry players playing their role to help all of us contract credit and have it at reduced cost.
And now let's check for the latest in the currency market. And that's it for business updates. Denisia Pomeje takes over again.
Well, that's it for AM News. Don't forget, right after the news, we have news review. Today, we'll be joined by energy expert Kojo Poku and Dr. Wisdom Dogbe. He's a financial analyst. Sweetie, can you help us with what's coming up on the show today?
Yes, for our big stories this morning, we'll have a conversation on that hotline documentary investigations, which have uncovered how customs officials take bribes to allow traders to transport smuggled goods from neighboring countries. These officials take bribes as little as 20 Ghana cedis to allow traders who have evaded paying taxes on their goods cross the borders. We'll bring you excerpts from that documentary, and then we have a conversation on how what we can do to seal those leakages in our revenue mobilization. And we also have another conversation on GMOs, that is genetically modified organisms. And Ghana has released its first GMO crop for commercial production in cowpea. What does this really mean for the agricultural sector in the midst of concerns raised by peasant farmers who say the country does not need this since the consequences for such interventions don't look good? We have all this on our table, so you don't want to miss any of our conversations.
Oh, thank you, Sweetie. And that's it for AM News once again. Enjoy the rest of the show.